Okay. The initial seconds of the live stream. I know some people felt that the Q&A session about Anguish was a little bit too dark. But then again, I just want to remind people this is a horror game. This is a cosmic horror game. Of course, some of the characters are going to be dark. Now, also, he is the darkest of the dark. Okay, so if you had a hard time with that Q&A, you're probably not going to have that hard of a time with any of the other Q&As. So I appreciate you all putting up with it. Um, I haven't gotten any good press. I haven't gotten any bad press either way. So yeah, just thanks for putting up with it and helping us move on and carry on to a much cooler character. And I don't say cool just because he's a heavy metal guitarist. He's just a cool cat. I had a lot of fun designing this character that we will be getting into not too far away from here. I know I at least have two people joining us. Michael, one of the additional writers on the game, and my favorite backer, Chris. I shouldn't say favorite. It's just he's the one that's usually here and hanging out with us. Um, the most, I don't know. How would I say that? He's had more appearances on these things than almost I have. And that's saying something because I put out all the videos. Well, who knows? Maybe he is on all the videos and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. Does he have the power of telegnosis? I hope not. Um, Most of you out there watching this going, what is that? I've never heard of that power. Well, that's another reason for you to buy the game and figure out the awesomeness that is that power. Literally, I had a friend of mine tell me, telegnosis, I hate the fact that it has to be a power, but I love the fact that you put it in here as a power. One of my friends' words, almost word for word, about the nature of that power. I hate that it has to be in there, but I like that it is. So yeah. Anyway, still got a couple of minutes before we officially get started here. Nobody's in chat yet, but that's okay. Like I said, it's early still. Um, I trust all of you have had a good week so far. I mean, you should join in the chat and let us know how your week's been. Maybe we can help make your week better in some way. I don't know. Maybe I'll think of something here before too much longer that I can do to heighten your experiences for this week, or at least today. Maybe you've had a good week and you just need a good way to like send off, get ready for the weekend here. I'll give you a good way of pushing into that. We'll see. We'll see in just a few minutes. We have 3 minutes left here. It looks like 4 minutes left, 3.5 minutes. Who knows? We're guessing around here. So, um, we've been talking about the Defender all pretty much all day. And it's got me going on this music spree of listening to a lot of my favorite heavy metal. Now, I don't listen to the hardcore death metal or anything like that, but I do love me some heavy metal. Um, Names that I don't know if I should mention because you can look up the discography of everything that I listen to in the official game book. But not even some of the times then that doesn't even cover like, okay, I'm going to mention one. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to name drop Lamb of God. Yeah. Yes, yes. And you know what? I'll even go one better. Well, not necessarily better, but I should say in addition. Mastodon. Yeah. Yeah, I went there as well. Um, there are a lot more than that I listen to as well. But also a big fan of Helmet from back in the day. Really big fan of theirs. But the point is, the whole conversational tick of tonight kind of bends towards a guy who's played heavy metal his entire life and then got powers and then was like, what am I going to do now? Type of a situation. He was ready to hang up his axe, and now he's still playing during the current gaming years that are outlined in the timeline of the game. So moms, dads, lock away your daughters. It is about time for us to talk about The Defender. The Defender. I know it sounds cheesy, but he actually got that name for a very specific reason. And I'm just waiting to see if we're going to get one of my friends in here to join us. Just waiting. We still have nobody here. We're not going to do the official opening yet. It seems like we still got some time left over. Maybe. I don't know. Where are my people? Where are my people? Even if there's only 2 people tonight, I need my people here. So yeah, where are my people? It's almost time. It is almost time. And coming up close. Yes. We are almost there and waiting. Almost there. Waiting. And the wait is over. Hello. Greetings and salutations. My name is Eric Badrag. I am the project manager of Haphazard Projects, lead developer of this game that we're here to talk about tonight, the Aethyr Blood Chronicles. Aethyr Blood Chronicles. Let me see here. Oh, we've got somebody up there. Somebody's watching from a far distance away. I'm assuming from somewhere maybe near Indianapolis region, I'm guessing. I could be wrong. Or is this from Virginia? No, I was right the first time. Michael, good to have you back here. Michael's been chit-chatting with me back and forth about some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. But yes, that may be totally correct. I could be totally wrong, though, I guess, by the same thing. Needless to that, last night we found out that the entire writing staff is actually going to be at Gen Con. So maybe you can meet us there, maybe not. I don't know. We didn't have time to plan our schedules around it. It just kind of turned out that, hey, we're all going to be there, So there we go. Yes, please come meet us, please. And now we have somebody else here as well. I'm assuming that this certain somebody is the same certain someone we have in almost all of our Q&A sessions. Is this indeed the Christopher, the supreme backer, as he stands? Or is this someone else? I don't know. They seem to have disappeared. That's okay. No pressure. There's never any pressure on this. Yes, we are here tonight to talk about the Heavy Metal Defender. All right. This is someone that certain members of certain bands would have loved to have seen back in the 80s. But due to time shenaniganery and other elements of the fictional world of the game, has had to speak up most recently. And that needs to be brought up today. I'm trying to bring up my notes here so I can make sure I actually know what the heck I'm talking about. My notes with his character sheets and stuff like that. So we are here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Defender. We are here to talk about his multiple lives as the Defender, as they may have been known, but as he is currently known, most popularly as Stephen Skull. Scull is still a last name. Stephen Skull, Stephen with a PH, the Defender, the heavy metal Defender. Basically, this is someone that had a long and successful career in heavy metal. Not quite death metal, but definitively square in the peg, labeled heavy metal. All right. Before we get too far into that, though, there are a few announcements and some other things. We did not get to do some videos this week, so I need some help from all of you here that are listening in. First and foremost, do you feel like we even need 2 other videos a week? Do we need a story so far? Do we need the backer feedback videos? I mean, I like doing them. I just don't know how much good they're doing for everybody, because one thing I hear most about is the time scheduling for these things. So I'm thinking 1 video a week from 5 until 9, or not until 9. That'd be ridiculous. It wouldn't even be funny. 5 till 7 Mountain Standard Time. That's what I was trying to say. Those were the words I was trying to use. 5 to 7 Mountain Time should be a good enough time slot for us to get everything taken care of. Tell you guys what's been going on for the week. Let you know that what the backers have spoken of, if anything at all. And I know the backers' feedback is usually for a Q&A session and stuff like that. But that's what we do here anyway. That's what we do. Normally it's tied in to a specific character. But could we just do the character Q&A and then do an open Q&A about anything? Doesn't that just seem like that would be a good fit? I think it would be a good fit. What I need is for you to tell me. So even those of you that don't normally tell me anything about, your opinions, you just listen to what is going on with the game. I need a little bit of feedback on this one, guys. Just a little bit. Because if not, I may make a decision that is very arbitrary and not at all in the direction of what you would like to see. I'm here to do this for you guys, with you guys, and we can't really do that together unless there is a together. So I know, what a sweet sentiment. But anyway, that's kind of the story so far as that goes. Also, there has been, where did I have this? That I have it here. No, that is not it either. Well, I guess I lost those notes that I thought I took good notes from the backer kit side of things, as far as like talking to the other backers that I had spoken with. But I do know this much: we're up to 26 backers. We're at 21% goal. 16 days in. I know Gen Con's going to be a big swell for us. But you know what would also be swell? See what I did there? Yeah, I thought you'd like that. What would also be amazing is if we could have I would say 40 backers between now and then. I'm throwing out numbers. It'd be great if we have it over 100, but I'm trying to be feasible here. Realistic goals. I was told that's what we should do. Realistic goals. All right. So, with that realistic goal in mind, if we can get 40 backers, that's a pretty sensible number. 40 backers before Gen Con. That's between now and August 1st. That's like almost 2 months. I think that's fair. What do you guys think? I think it's very fair. So, how about let's do that? Let's just say 20 backers a month. Let's shoot for that goal. All right, if we get 40 before August 1st, then I will have a little something for anyone that comes by and visits me at Gen Con. It's not going to be anything big, but I will have stuff there for people that come by and visit, specifically for the Aethyr Chronicles. I know I've mentioned something already about coming to see me at Gen Con. That is not taken out of play whatsoever. So, not reminding you what that was, but it was mentioned. That is still in play. So anyway, with all this having been said, why don't we get into some talking about the Monotone? JS, awesome. Glad to see you here. And Jonah's here. One video a week makes sense to you. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we are on staff. We know, how busy we are as people. I can only guess as to the busyness of everyone else. Or something like that. Like I'm trying to make sense of it. Just one video a week would make me feel a whole lot better. I know. Because I've seen what it's like making 3 videos a week, and it's kind of nonsense. Especially when we're not up to that point yet. I mean, later on, if we get to the point where it's needed, maybe I can look back upon that issue. But yeah, I think that's what we'll do. We'll just cut back to 1 video a week. And it will be these videos because I like doing these videos more than anything. So yeah, let us talk about the Defender, also known as the Heavy Metal Defender, also known as Stephen Skull, also known as David Downings. He is known by many a name. Why is he known by so many names? I don't know. Let's find out. So, what we're going to do, since we have some people here that have already been talking to me about this, I don't know, is Christopher here yet? Christopher has not made it here yet? All right, Christopher is not here yet. Okay, well, we'll wait for him to get here. Not literally wait. We're not going to sit here and twiddle our thumbs. But, let's go ahead and get started. Since the right staff is entirely here, what I'd like to do, JS, since we'll welcome you back to another Q&A session, why don't you start us off with the first question? Like, I don't know how much you've read into the Defender or anything else in the book yet. I know quite a few people have already read the entire book, which I'm very impressed with. I appreciate that. So, JS, please do us the favor of starting us out with the first question for the Defender. No pressure. First question of the night sets the tone. This week's episode brought to you by Jeopardy. You can hear the theme music, can't you? Oh, you haven't read The Defender yet? Oh, interesting. Well, that should make the first question very obvious to you. Or not. I mean, you don't have to ask the first question. We can come back to you. How did he become the Defender? There we go. Believe it or not, well, believe it, because this is the way it usually works. History has a habit of repeating itself. So, one of the most iconic moments in my life as not only just a musician, but as someone who appreciates, hard rock and roll and whatnot. One of the coolest moments in history for me, just from that standpoint, was Twisted Sister going up to Congress or the state senate or whoever they went to, and basically telling them off, but doing it on their terms, doing it on using all the correct legal terminologies and the exact proceedings that that the people that put them on trial were not ready for them to answer back with. And that really stuck out with me. So basically, I took that a step further. And I think anyone who knows anything about that type of the industry knows that we have a huge importing of Swedish death metal. And I am not saying anything bad about it. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I still respect it. So anyway, as a professional musician in America, he was asked to make some comments upon death metal, and was there any difference between what he did what he did for a living and death metal, and anything like that. This was not necessarily a courtroom setting, but he might as well have been on court. In court, this might as well have been something that happened to him, facing down the president, because he was a highly respected man in his dealings. He was not one of the rambunctious heavy metal people that have proliferated our history. He was always well spoken. He was always very careful about making sure where he partied, et cetera, et cetera. So he literally came up and he was like, look, you shouldn't be focused on all of us. You should be focusing just on the bad apples. And it's very easy to tell who the bad apples are. Focus in on the bad apples. Don't focus in on the genre. Don't ever focus in on one lump sum of anything. Focus on the truly dangerous things within that lump sum. And you'll find that your efforts go a little bit more well accepted. And so he quickly became known as the heavy metal defender because of that. So sometimes when he's introduced, everybody will be like, the heavy metal defender, Steven Skull, or whatever name he's going by at the time. But he's a really laid back guy. He believes in partying in his own backyard. And granted, he does some crazy stuff, but it's like he'll warn people he's coming through and be like, yeah, my band is coming through and prepare for some shenanigans, but we're going to pay you for absolutely every piece of carpet that is out of place when we're done. We're not trying to take advantage of you, but we need to have fun. We need to let out some steam. And then, of course, as he got more and more rich, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to open up my own hotel for rock bands to come through, and we're going to party here. And this is going to be our location, and it's a safe space for us to, unleash, and relax from everything. Because heavy metal people need to relax as well, But anyway, so that's kind of how I became the defender. And then when he got superpowers, he just shortened it back from heavy metal defender to just the defender. You know. So yeah, I really went round the horse on that one a couple of times before I decided to actually tell it to run anywhere. But yeah, there you go. All right. Do we have a good secondary follow-up question, please? Anybody? I'm looking at no one in particular for a question. Oh gosh, 2 back to back. Okay, obviously I'm going to go in order here. Actually, no, it makes sense for me to go with Jonah's question first, and then leverage that into the next question, just because of the way this kind of works. All right. Again, let me bring up the notes so I'm sure not to misquote anything here. I'd hate for somebody to be reading the book going, "That's not what he said." But a lot of this is in my personal notes as well. So, he became an Aethyr. Well, that was the correct question, right? He became, yeah, when did he meet his Agnati? Okay. He met his Agnati. So that would have been 2015. He received a vision from his Agnati. Now, this does not mean that's when he got his powers. Okay, that's when he received a vision, and in that vision, he was told something is going to happen, and we can help you out of your situation. And he was like, well, that doesn't help me out of anything right now. You know, and then a couple of years later, he got the same revisitation. It's like, we're coming and we will help you. And then a couple of years later, it finally gets to the year 2021. And it is then when he is at his absolute worst that that familiar series of voices kind of pop into his head once more, and everything that happens in one single instant. And he says, yes, of course. And he becomes the individual he is, like in the contemporary days of the timeline. And I'm just trying to get back to his character sheet here. I am 90% certain that I was right. Yes. The reason why I say voices is because he is an agent of the collective. It's not a series of a rogue Agnati telling him how to do things. It's just a series of multiple Agnati that are like, this is what we want you to do, and you're going to do it. And as long as you do it, you have superpowers. What those powers actually are is he has a degree of superhuman strength, stamina, and is invulnerable. He can control metal as an element. He can basically solidify the iron in his bloodstream to create a suit of iron around him. Kind of like maybe Colossus might do. So he's got a silvery sheen of metal around him that he creates on a biological level. And it provides him insane durability defenses, etc. He's also going to be extremely long-lived. He's probably going to live about 200-300 years of age before he actually, if he lives to the point of dying of old age. He heals kind of like Spider-Man, and he also has access to extra-dimensional space. Thor's got hammer space. The Defender has axe space, which he just laughs at, like nobody gets the joke. But anyway, so yeah, those are his powers, and hopefully that just segued really naturally from one to the other. Okay, so where does Defender fall in the spectrum of good and good to evil? Very well in line with good. He is not a superhero, but he is leaning in that direction. Never has he been evil. He's never been a bad man to begin with. He's just had problems just like anybody else. And now that he has his powers, he wants to do something with them. And how he approaches those somethings just varies. It depends on what is going to answer the question. Is it going to be philanthropy? I can't even say the word. Philanthropy. Is it going to be that? Or is it going to be use of powers? If he has to get up there and use his powers, he's going to get up there and use his powers. If he can use his money to fix a problem, he's going to do that. If he has to do both, he'll do that too. But there is no evil side to him. It's not like he just throws money at a problem and says, "Look, buy my next album because that's all I'm good for." That's not all he's good for. So corporate America has not done him in yet. Next question. We have 4 people in here now. Does that mean Christopher has arrived? I just like knowing that certain people are going to show up, where I can look at the numbers and go, he's here, isn't he? Isn't he? But anyway. While we wait for the 4th member to reveal their identity to us. Okay, so we've got... Oh, you're all good, dude. Don't worry about it. I'm glad you made it, though. Next question by someone on my own right staff. So does he do a lot of superhero world-saving stuff, or is he more playing music and living a normal life? He's more into playing music and living a normal life. However, he uses his talents and his powers to serve a purpose with larger ideals than just one person can have. So he works with a lot of charities. He does special events, particularly through his music. Do we know what his covenant is? You know what? I can't even recall that off the top of my head. I should have researched my own character before we did this. Does everyone know what his covenant is? No, not everybody. He plays that one pretty much close to his chest. Just so you know, his covenant is enlightened by music. Yes. There you go, right there. One of my own writers is trying to upstage me. Oh gosh, what am I going to do? He knows what's written even better than I do. Just kidding, of course. But no, seriously, I mean, I can't be expected to remember everything that I've written, even though I remember a lot. So, enlightened by music is indeed his covenant. So he sometimes decides He needs his own Swedish heavy metal album intro. What are you talking about? He is the intro to Swedish heavy metal. No, no. Well, you missed it beforehand because he did the modern day Twisted Sister thing where, well, go back and watch the video. You'll find out. I'm not going to say it twice. Not when it will actually be the third time that I've said it today. That's what the video's for. Yeah, I'll let you go. Just because you're a backer, you can go back and read it again. If it were anybody else, I'd just say it again for their, personal sake of whatever, dude. So, yeah. Any other questions? Have any enemies or rivals? Not really. Not really. When he goes out and does something super heroic, he doesn't do it to rub anyone's faces in it. Like, especially like some people just don't get along with some others, and so they have these intense rivalries and stuff like that. Allies, yes. He has quite a few allies. He has no sidekicks, but he does have bandmates, and he's exceptionally close to all of them. Allies, you would be this one. This one's kind of funny. He's actually quite good friends with the Monotone. And the band is not made up of Aethyrs. How did I know that was going to go next? The band is not made up of Aethyrs. They're casuals, each one of them. He is the Aethyr of the group. The Monotone is indeed someone that he would call a friend. And then later on down the line, he becomes friends with a Japanese Aethyr by the name of Xenifer. And then there's one other one that was like the Avenger. The Avenger, who has nothing to do with the Avengers from Marvel. Please don't sue. They're nothing alike whatsoever. The Avenger is one individual, and was given his name by Manhattan at large. But we'll get into the Avenger another night, won't we? But he and the Avenger and Xenifer and the Monotone are all really close to each other, or not close to each other, but they're all like he considers them his closest friends. So any special items that he uses, significant items, I guess you're talking about his guitar. You want me to mention his guitar? Okay. Well, far be it for me not to speak of another man's axe. An axe being a reference to guitar. Some people may not realize what that means, but yes, if you shred an axe, that means you play guitar. So his guitar is the SSX 12 series Skullduggery. It is a one-of-a-kind custom guitar. There's only one of them. It is made from 100 pounds of solid tungsten. Why is that it's such a distinction that needs to be mentioned? He just thought it was cool. He just thought it was cool. It was like, give me a non-radioactive material that's really heavy. And there you go. That's what it was. Yeah, he has that guitar. His guitar strings, because this is something else in case you don't know, guitar strings work the way they do because of the human finger being able to apply very special pressure between a guitar string and the neck of a guitar. And so if you don't have a specific type of string, that's why you can't just play with any string. You have to have strings that are specifically engineered for this. And someone whose fingers are metal, when he plays guitar, that person needs specific strings. So he's worked out a deal with Ernie Ball to produce a series of strings just for him, which kind of made a little bit of sense because they did this series called Earthwoods. which was just kind of a green version of guitar strings. And now they've got the heavy metal version, that he uses with skullduggery. So yeah, Arnie Ball strings. Go figure. I should probably keep an eye on time. Now I am keeping an eye on time. So yeah. Any other questions? And afterwards, I'll go ahead and say this now. Oh, wow. We've got a couple of, actually the same question that popped up from two. That's awesome. I do want to go ahead and say that once we hit a certain point in the time, we are going to do an open Q&A about absolutely anything for the Aethyr Blood Chronicles. So, yeah, now let me deal with these two jinxes over here. So who are his biggest musical influences? Who influenced him musically? So yeah, that's basically, yeah. You could have used the exact same words, but you might as well have. So basically, to him, Anthrax, Slayer, Pantera, one of his favorite musical acts was probably Vulgar Display of Power. And then, but there's one thing more than anything else that should probably get mentioned here, and that is Pink Floyd's The Wall. And the reason why this stands the way it does is this is actually a kind of humorous story. So, a young Steven Skull is that's your favorite album? Yeah, it's a great album. We all know this. But a young Steven Skull was going through some videotapes that were in his dad's closet. I mean, no need for guys to get, yeah, it is pretty epic. No need for guys to get embarrassed. This sort of thing happens to guys of a certain age. So he's going through looking at old video cassettes and stuff. So one thing he finds amongst the trash, obviously, is Pink Floyd's The Wall on video cassette. And it's very heavily watched, and just streamlines all through it and stuff like that. But he's watching it, and he doesn't understand it the first time through. Like the music he gets, he enjoys the music for what it is. But it's really strange for a 12-year-old to just kind of sink his teeth into The Wall. Because with no outer context to what The Wall is or what it means or what exactly they're talking about when they're singing their songs, it's hard. It's hard to wrap your head around that. So he watched it like 3 or 4 times. And his conclusion was that Pink Floyd was obviously trying to tell a story, but that he didn't even think that they knew what that story was about. So, which is clearly not the case to Pink Floyd fans. I mean, we know exactly what was being said. And that is one of the things that gives that album the credence that it has. So he's like, well, if Pink Floyd can make a really weird movie that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but is still trying to say something, because it's obviously trying to say something, I want to be able to do the same thing. So he's always tried to tell stories with his albums that he's produced. And that was from his earliest musical influence, which was Pink Floyd. And of course the other bands that I mentioned just kind of shaped him as into the musician he is nowadays. He is one of the people that prefers Megadeth to Metallica. I will make that just clearly stated. He is not a Metallica fan, unlike because when certain people split away from certain other people, I'm not going to mention names because we already know who the names are. When people split up, you either went to follow this guy or the rest of them. And he definitely was in the camp that went to go visit, the guy he was interested in, musically speaking. So that's just who he is. But yeah, as far as his musical influences, there you go, right there. No, there aren't, because if one thing is discernible between hold on. First, let me get through the other one. If one thing can be said about the selection of Aethers, it is that they try and get a varied sample of the population to choose for these powers. And then this next question is, does the Monotone have a guest spot on one of his albums? Firstly, no. I don't want laughter because it's not funny. If not, would he be open to it? No, he wouldn't be open to it. But there was this one funny story about Christmas in July at Madison Square Gardens. And I believe this was this 23? Yeah, this was 23. This was his comeback year as a musician. So the Defender basically gets on stage at Madison Square Gardens and says, okay, we're going to have a rockathon, basically. And whoever can dethrone me as heavy metal Defender, we're going to do something. We're going to do something special. And he said, no matter what we're going to do is we're going to match penny for penny whatever funds are raised for Toys for Tots from our earnings as a band. We're going to match it penny for penny. We're going to have something else that we're going to do on top of that. So everything is raring to go. Everybody is having a ton of fun. You have a bunch of amateur guitar players. You have a bunch of big names from a lot of big bands present as well. And when nobody can beat them, the Monotone comes flying in. And he's like, dude, I've been watching you do this now for however long it's been going on. May I have a guitar to challenge you? And everybody was just like worried that Monotone was just going to break out and start killing people, which is not Monotone. We know this by now. But still, people very fearful of what they don't understand. So they start freaking out. And the Defender's like, no. We're here as musicians. We're here for a reason. We want to do this for Toys for Tots. Sure, gives them a guitar. They go back and forth for like 3 days because both of them have the power of stamina. It's literally one of their superpowers. So they're going back and forth day for day. They cannot beat each other. They're such fine musicians. They cannot beat each other. To where finally the Monotone gives up and says, look, you're called the heavy metal Defender for a reason. So here's your guitar back. I will match the funds that you put in for Toys for Tots this year. And there ended up being a lot of money, let's just say, that went into Toys for Tots for that Christmas. So no, he does not have a welcome spot to join on one of the albums, but there was that little crossover event that happened way back when, and it was one of the things where people realized the Monotone isn't actually that bad of a guy. He just kills people. goodness. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's one of the questions answered. Do we have anything else? I mean, I know for a fact we do. We've got quite a few questions ready, but yeah. Lord tidbits. You have to. Is the Defender immortal? No, but he is exceptionally long-lived. He will live for 200-300 years or so if he doesn't die by violence. But he is not immortal, as it says. And I'm going to go look at his character sheet right now, because if I just shot myself in the foot, that would be hilarious. No, he is not immortal. Yes, I won. Yeah, but he'll live a good 200-300 years though. So yeah, questions. This is a lot more fun when we have more people here. JS, you got another question? I mean, I'll take a question from anybody. It's just, I like keeping people involved. Not right now. It's all good. It's all good. Just sitting around and enjoying learning about a new character. For an Aethyr like Defender, what is a typical day? Okay, so he's a professional musician first and foremost. Okay, so watch a documentary on your favorite heavy metal guitarist and singer, and you're going to see what exactly his day is like, except maybe to a little bit more of a laid-back style. He does not drink. He does not do drugs, though he does not tell people how to live their lives either. So his bandmates all drink, and they all do drugs to one degree or another. But the one thing is, they won't do it in front of a camera. If they're on stage or in any other public eye, they will not use any substances or drink anything. Because they want to live like rock stars, but they want to live first and foremost. So his typical days are really spending time around his family and his friends, which includes his band, making sure that everybody is taken care of, making sure that, nobody needs help about anything. He'll go in and input maybe some things that he sees that other people may be lacking on their own personal projects, and like help them build up what they're trying to do on the side. Because a production like a serious Swedish death metal band, which is kind of what they personify as, that's like an endurance trial. It's not just your typical go out on stage and sing, which is tiring in and of itself. To go out there and give it your all and run around and scream and do it with precision is a little bit harder than what some musicians are used to doing. And I'm not trying to make a bad conception about musicians. I'm not. It's a little bit more tasking if you're just sitting around playing piano or classical guitar than if you are one of those bands that are on that level, And like I said, Swedish death metal is not my thing, so I don't actually have a good band to like compare his bands to. But anyway, so yeah, that's what he spends his days on. He spends his days with helping out his friends on their individual projects. He spends his days, like cooking for his friends. He's not a very good cook, but still he enjoys it. And then organizing stuff for his charities, and at the same time organizing the events, the performances, and things like that. This is something else that he takes great pride in. He wants to know that every bit of technical know-how, every pyromanic feature in on stage is going to go off the exact same time. It's going to need to be the precision choreography that needs to be hit so that nobody gets hurt, et cetera, et cetera. All that is planned down to the finest of details, not because he's got something stuck up his butt. He just does. He wants to make sure nobody gets hurt. He wants to make sure everybody's having fun and no one gets hurt. And that's how he lives his life. He kind of takes the seat back and watches everybody else have fun. And he lives vicariously through that. So. Well, wow. Okay. Bands does he like to tour with? For the bands that he grew up listening to that are still around, he loves touring with them. Okay. But at the same time, he does not enjoy touring with his contemporaries. Like he doesn't tour with a bunch of Swedish death metal bands. He tours with more dated. I hate to say the word dated, but then again, I don't want to say old, because I would never call these gentlemen old to their faces, nor would he. But he likes to go with the original, the OG metalheads. So anytime he could spend playing with those gentlemen, that's who he likes to tour with. And sometimes he comes around as a guest guitarist and just plays rhythm guitar and stuff like that. He doesn't care because he's getting to play with his favorites. So. I'm surprised nobody's asked what his bands have been like in the past. So I'm going to ask that question. What have his bands been like in the past? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. Again, I kind of need to open up because I get the band names kind of mixed up. From his first band was called Deathbed, going triple platinum. I mean, they were extremely popular and whatnot. And then there was a death in the band. The drummer died during a high-speed car accident that was not his fault. And it kind of messed with Steven Skull's head a little bit. And as something like that would, you got to imagine these guys are like brothers, and one of them dies and the other one. So Steven went on to play with several like video game soundtracks and stuff like that. It was more low key than what he wanted. But he stopped playing guitar altogether at a certain point when he was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Once he got his powers, he quickly jumped back onto the scene with a new band called Middle Death. And that's how he got his persona known as the Metal Defender, Heavy Metal Defender. So I know people are just like, what was his band's name and whatnot. So I wanted to make sure that got put out there. So. So yeah. No, he was never jamming out to Europe at the start. He was never listening to Europe. Never. If that was a bad joke, Chris, I'm sorry. It's not funny. Kind of is, but not really. I mean, that's something that would get you punched by the defender. You know, well, open hand slap, because I mean, if he punched you, he'd probably kill you. But still. Europe? Okay, we must be thinking of two different things here then. I'm going to Google this because if I'm thinking of who I'm thinking, and I might be thinking of the wrong band name. They were a Swedish rock band, yes. Final Countdown, of course. They're not a death metal band. I think that's what I meant by it. They're not a hard rock, heavy metal band. You know, they were a pop band. I hate to use the word pop, but we got to face it. They were. Yeah, classical stuff, but that's not what he listened to. No. Would you consider Europe in the same category as like Pantera? No. Exactly. Neither would you. That's good to know. I did not know that Europe was a Swedish band. I did not know that. So yeah, that's probably what confused me there for a split second there. I knew they were not a heavy metal band. I knew that. But anyway, got a couple more minutes for a Q&A. If anybody else has anything. Anything? Bueller. You're tapped out. I could have swore we had prepped more questions. Does the defender have a at-home life? Yeah, I know the book specifically says one thing, but tungsten was always what it was intended to be. Home life. I think I discussed that. His day-to-day life is his at-home life. His hanging out with his band. His band is his family. You know, he has other family members with him, of course. Like his mom and dad are still a big part of his life, you know, so on and so forth. So it's just the entire family lives the life of heavy metal. So yeah. Well, okay. Looks like we'll be turning in early tonight, but we still have quite a few things to talk about still. Hopefully, let's put a nail in the coffin of Steven Skull, and we're going to start talking about his journey as David Downings, which once he started with his second band, Middle Death, there are just a few things I wanted to mention. That was when he legally had his name changed, because he didn't want to be associated with, you know, former things that happened before he was an Aethyr. He didn't want anybody finding out about his family and stuff like that. He was a new person as far as he was concerned. So he still lived with his family. It was still a very family-oriented life, but it was not um, the same way it had been lived before. Um, David was not someone who went to studios. David was not someone who went and worked on others' time. David became someone that you paid your time to go work for. You know, it was a privilege to work for him because he was such an icon by that point. Literally an icon, almost. If some people would take my meaning to be a little bit more literal in that. And we can get into that in a few minutes if you like. But he, this was not something he did. This is what, you know, the whole LA and New York music scenes did for him. They respected who he had been. They respected what he was about. And they were like, how can we make this easier for you? And he was just like, I don't have time for the studio BS. You want to work with me? Come work out of my house, type of thing. Again, instilling more of a family views attitude, family ties views attitude towards the whole thing. You know, that's who David Downings became. Excuse me. Make sure I get the name right. David Downings. So no, I was not messing up his name when I said he's been. I know in the book he's listed as one name, and then on the update that I posted a little bit earlier, I used the second name. I did that intentionally. David Downings became the real Defender. And I know that's a lot of alliteration right there, but you're just going to have to forgive me. I love alliteration. David Downings was the person that started doing everything with all of the fundraising and the working with kids, the working with education systems, you know, put an instrument in every kid's hand, meaning guitars, you know, violins, drums, whatever they wanted to play, you know, real advocate for music education in the school systems, stuff like that. And so he literally did really live two lives. One of them was more the musician. The other one was more of that icon. And I use that word again very specifically. And I'll mention this real quick, and then we'll actually go to an open Q&A about everything. But the icon, who is now known as the Defender, there is a system in the game called Icons and Remnants. And they do very special things for Aethyrs. They heighten the powers of Aethyrs. And some jackhole decided that the Defender might actually be an icon or a remnant, and sought to capture him for use of increasing their powers. Well, this idiot did not live long. The first time he tried, the Defender was actually on a tour bus with a bunch of kids, and his band was basically driving them from one show in the Twin Cities to another. It was like literally just like a 45-minute drive. They're driving, and all the kids are having fun. They're doing basically an acoustic jam session with the band, asking them all sorts of questions and whatnot. And this Aethyr, who no one even knows his name, they just know he was an Aethyr because of his blood type that was collected later. No one knew his name. He tried to crash into the bus to knock out the Defender and capture him. Of course, this failed. And some people might be thinking out, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. Didn't he run me a story like this? the truth of the matter is, except the power that was used there was control gravity. And I do believe I remembered saying something about this storyline. Seems a little bit familiar to me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And basically, the guy survives the crash. Everybody survived the crash because what happened was the Defender literally encased the entire bus with metal, so that when it got hit at high speeds, it was like an ant, like a carpenter ant flying into the side of a tank. Needless to say, the other vehicle was completely destroyed, and the Defender steps out, pulls the guy out, senses that he's an Aethyr. And, because Aethers can do that. They can tell one another, from other humans and stuff like that. So the Defender picks him up by a scruff and is like, okay, you're an Aethyr. You should be better than this. And you could have killed 30-something kids. Why'd you do it? And the Aethyr promptly died, just tapping on the Defender's metallic skin, going, people are going to come looking for you. Because people thought he was a remnant or an icon. And no one's been stupid enough to make an attempt since. Well, that is something that has happened. And of course, no one sued him because all of their kids were safe and whatnot. And, and he paid for the wrecks and the cleanup of the site and everything himself. But it kind of put a new spin on his whole life. And it was like, if ever I was, sure that it was a right decision to put myself with a new name out there, it's now, because of something that happened when I had been with my parents. I wouldn't have been able to control myself. He's lucky he was dying when I found him, because that might have driven me over the edge. Kids, coming from a nice guy like this, was nearly broke his back, metaphorically speaking, and was nearly a trigger to send him over. But he managed to save the day yet again, and refused to make a buck off of it. So that is who David Downings is. He is someone who tries not to stay bitter. That is someone who tries not to take his money and his wealth for granted and things like that, where, he had been kind of known to do that in the past. Oh, you want a couple $1,000s to go out and party? Here you go. Stuff like that. He doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. He's a lot more responsible. It's like, you want to go out and party? That's you, but I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to help you go party. Please understand, I'm basically paying you anyway to work with me. Don't ask me for more money, please. But yeah, so that's kind of there's a very slight but distinct flavor between those two personalities. And he tries to stay as far away from Steven Skull as possible. So anyway, his two names. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. That story is something that needed to be told, I think, because it's crucial to understanding the character and how he thinks and what it takes to get him that riled up that he might think about taking another person's life. And yet he still didn't. A lot of people, I think, under those exact circumstances would have used it as an excuse. But hey, Anyway, so we're going to pack that in right there, unless somebody has a follow-up question to that. If you do, let us know. We got 5 people listening in. That's an all-time high for us. Yay! Any final questions before we move on to an open Q&A? Or we can just move on to an open Q&A. Nobody's saying anything, so we're going to move on to an open Q&A. So anyway, yeah, open Q&A about anything having to do with anything about the game whatsoever, be it mechanics, be it stuff about other characters or whatnot. You know what? Before even then, though, okay, who is our fifth individual in chat? I would like to know this. Please say hello to us, because if you don't mind sharing that with us, I might have something special to say to you. All people are special, of course, and I'm not trying to make a joke or anything at anyone's expense. I just want you to know that right now. But no, seriously. I might have something to say if this person will tell us who they are in chat, just real quick. Are you a backer? Are you someone who's just interested in the project? Are you part of an algorithm just keeping track of us all? You know, I guess if you're an algorithm, you're really not going to say much. But yeah. Okay. Apparently they don't want to say anything. Completely fine. Completely fine. No big deal. So what I will say is that I feel like before we continue on the open Q&A, we should address who the next episode is going to be about. Okay? So, I've already asked everyone in chat, I think. If I have not asked you specifically, oh, wait. Oh, hey, right here. This is big one. Big news. Thank you, JS, for this. I really appreciate this. Bumped my pledge to make an in-game character. Will I be helping you with that? Absolutely. Absolutely, because I want your character to fit into the storylines the exact same way every other character does. We're not just going to make you a character in there so you can say, I made a character. Anybody can make a character. I want to work with you to put that character in the game. So, if you will let me help you, yes, absolutely. That is what I would prefer to do. I'm glad you seem to be so appreciative of that. I really am. You know, I've been happy to have you on the project thus far. Just I'm happy for everybody, you know, that comes by and says, you know, this is interesting. I'll throw you a couple of bucks, because we couldn't do it without you. You know, we cannot do this without you guys as backers. So, JS, I think you just answered my question here. Would you like a take two on your picking the character for the next? Now that we've got Anguish over and done with and behind us, I don't think we can do that badly again. Would you like to pick a different character? Or do you want to pass it on to one of the writers or to Chris or whoever? We need a female. Hey, I'm all for that. I am all for that. Who should we focus in on? Okay, we need a female. Does someone else want to mention a female character? Maybe focus on them? I know what Jonah's thinking. I guarantee you I know what Jonah's thinking. I think he's actually writing a little vignette about her right now. I could be mistaken. Could be mistaken. I don't think I am, though. So, yeah. I have plenty of female characters to be chosen. So which one specifically. And I say we go for someone. Of course we could do Miracle next, but do we really want to do Miracle next? Because here's the thing: we've done Anguish, we've done Monotone. If we do Miracle, we've taken care of all three of the original three Aethers. Do we want to take care of Miracle next, or do we want to bring somebody else to the forefront for a minute? That's my only thing about Miracle. She's an obvious choice for multiple reasons. I mean, if that's who you want to do, then that's who we can do. I'm not saying no. Pale could be fun. Did we talk about Pale last night? Atmosi. Atmosi could be very cool. The original three sound like a great approach. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of different stuff here. So Miracle, Pale, and Atmosi, who are all three, really amazing characters. Pale with the ability to break the fourth wall. Atmosi just for being a spunky little brat who is right about the weather always because she can control it. Scattered thunder what is it? Scattered thunder showers with a chance of your butt getting kicked right now, or something like that. I think it's her quote. If not, it should be. Let me see. What was her quote? I can't remember. Now I have to know. Chamber would also be another one that I would put up for that vote. Okay, that's not her quote, but it was close enough. All right, Chamber would be fun, I think, as well, because a lot of people consider her to be a super villainess. But she's not. She's more of a victim than superhero or super villain or anything like that. So Jonah, we'll leave it to you. Since you're the one writing about about Miracle right now, we'll leave it up to you. Do you want to do Miracle next, or do you want to do one of these others? It's up to you. No pressure or anything. Let's do Miracle. Cover the big three. All right. That's what we're going to do then. Next week, on Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time till 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. One of these days, I'm going to throw you a wrench and be like, 5 p.m. starting time, Mountain Standard Time. 10 p.m. finishing time, Eastern Standard Time, or something like that. Just be like, what? Wait, what? But anyway, yeah, okay. So what we're gonna do is next Friday, episode 4, 5 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We will cover Miracle and everything that makes her tick. I'm sure Jonah has a few interesting things that he could say about her, just from the experiences of us talking about her for her vignette that he's working on. But we'll cover Miracle next, and then we'll have an open Q&A and stuff, and we'll take it from there. So open Q&A. Anybody want to ask anything else? And again, JS, I want to thank you for increasing your pledge. I really do. I needed to say thank you to everybody who's really been coming forward and throwing in their quarter for the game. You're geeked out to learn more about Miracle. Can I ask why? I mean, is it just because she's a religious bent to a superhero, or you just enjoying this as a series so far, as far as like delving into all these characters? I mean, I'm just curious, if there's something specific or if it's just you enjoy this. Okay, yeah, interested in female heroes. Yeah, I have to admit I am too. There aren't enough good ones, in my opinion. Um, you've got unique ones, sure. Like the only, and like DC is like my wheelhouse, okay? And I love Wonder Woman for what she stands for, but at the same time, Greek mythology is pretty overdone when it comes to comic book references. You know, again, I'm a DC guy. You can't be angry at me for saying something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many more interesting DC female characters, you know, that you could talk about other than Wonder Woman. She just happens to be one of their big three. You know, the thing I like about my big three is it's more like anti-hero, and then supervillain, superhero. That's how the delineation is made in my big three. And I thought that was an interesting way to approach it. But yeah, female characters. Oh gosh, Atmosi. Atmosi's a lot of fun. Pale is kind of an anti-hero type thing because she's kind of more like Deadpool and Spider-Man and stuff like that. Without Spider-Man, without the heroics. But yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. So, all right. So, does anybody have any open Q&A questions whatsoever? Anything? Because I know we've been talking for a while now, and if no one can come up with anything, we'll go ahead and call it here, and we'll just have even more set up for next week's episode. But yeah, if anybody has anything, please don't hesitate to ask. I've been waiting for this question. Oh, man. Not necessarily the setup for how you presented this question, but this question specifically. All right. Music seems to be a common theme in the game. What can you talk about how Discords, or can you talk about how Discords work? Of course I can. So, without hitting upon the big two, which are boundaries that I said I would never cross in one of these Q&A sessions. It would have to come out during a game session that would then be talked about or something like that, because they're very much items that could be construed as spoiler alerts. Okay, without bringing in the spoil alert, a Discord is okay, I have to think about how to answer the question without answering the question. So a Discord is a series of cosmic melodies that reflect upon an individual Aethyr. Okay? When these notes are played in reverse, kind of like the country song, or not the country song, but the country ideal. You get your dog back, you get your house back, you get your wife back, all that. No, I'm kidding. Basically, Discords say that if you hear those harmonies play against you, against the grain, they can interfere with your superpowers. So what I've done is, instead of saying, oh, you would have to listen to X song backwards in order to inflict misery upon someone's powers. No, that's not the way it works. When you make notes that when you play those notes in reverse, it happens to sound like that song. That is a discord. And that will interrupt the flow of an Aethyr's powers. So that's all a discord is. And the way you manipulate people's powers through a discord is pretty freaking incredible. But it also ties into a very touchy subject that I don't want to get into. Because, like I said, it's one of those big reveal moments that we're just not there yet. We're just not there yet. But yeah, so like let's say, for example, the Monotone. Okay. I love using him as an example for this. The Monotone's discord is "You Broke Up With Me" by some country music Western person who was never really a star. He released the worst country music song of all time. That is not my opinion. That is the vast majority of country fans' opinion, all coagulated into one. Do a Google search. Just search the worst country music song of all time. "You Broke Up With Me" is going to be there, right there at number one. Guaranteed, because that's how I found it. So yeah, when the Monotone gets near sounds that progress like that, it interferes with his song. So if someone happens to drive by and blares that song while he's stealthing along, getting ready to fulfill his covenant, all of a sudden all of his powers stop working, or they only work intermittently. It's like Superman's kryptonite. It just interferes with stuff slightly. The more constant the contact is, the worse and worse it gets. But it's in no danger of killing a person. It's just one of those things like, it won't kill an Aethyr, but it very well could cause them to end up breaking their covenants inadvertently. Hopefully that answers the question. How those work and to what extents and stuff like that. If that did not work out, throw a flag in play, and then I'll know that I just suck. Because we used to throw flags in play. We need to get back in that habit. Penalty flag at the mention of country music. I don't know. So yeah. Music is a common theme for me because that's who I am. Thank you. Thank you for the thumbs up. I am a musician, have been for most of my life. And so music's important to me. I'm going to make it important to everything I do. So that's why I came up with the discords as a concept to begin with. So yeah. All right. Anybody else have another question? Having to deal with anything. Just look at a character sheet and go, that seems funny, and ask me a question about it. Are there any major threats to the Aethers other than one another and using their discords? Well, I'm curious, Michael. Do you come up with this question on your own, or have you read certain parts of the book? I'm just curious. If you've read it in the book so far, that's fine. And that just means you're trying to help me with questions. That's cool. If you have not read this in the book, though, what about both? But I'm asking you one or the other question. Like, did you read that section, or were you not even aware of that section? Oh, you read it first. Okay. I was just curious, because that could have been a question either way. All right, so you read it first. All right. This again comes close to one of those lines that I will not cross, but I will give you a slight answer. Okay. The Agnati are creating Aethers for one reason and one reason only, and that is to fight a species known as the Vosges. And the Vosges are an enemy species that fights the Agnati. And so the Agnati need basically a hand in fighting. And that's where Aethers come from. So the first and foremost opponent of an Aethyr is not even other Aethers. It's the Vosges. The whole reason I have an entire book associated with a stretch goal called the Vosges Invasion. I could do an entire evening chat about the Vosges. There's so much information to go by, but for intents and purposes, they are solidified magical energy. That is all I can really say about them at this moment in time. Solidified magical energy. Now, for those of you that have listened to a couple of other streams, you know that the Vosges War, afterwards, there's an explosion of arcane energy. And things start becoming more fanciful. There are spellcasters and things like that on Earth. Might have something to do with the Vosges invasion. Might not. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's literally a question I do not feel comfortable answering right now because I don't want to answer everything right out of the gateway. If everybody wants to help me bring home the Vosges Invasion as a book, I will write the heck out of that book. I will promote the heck out of that book because that means I will be able to do 5 books in this series for the Aether Blood Chronicles. And that's really what I want to do. And when we do that 5th book, that's when all the answers will be laid before you. And you'll be like, it all makes sense. Instead of Richard Dreyfuss looking at that monstrous mashed potatoes complex going, this means something. You'll actually know what it means. And I love that movie. I'm not making fun of that movie. I love that movie. So yeah. Anything else? Two great questions so far. Let's see if we can get some more. What would my Discord be? What interacts? Oh gosh, my Discord, if I had one, would definitely be "If You Want to Be My Lover" by the Spice Girls. That would definitely be it. That would neutralize everything that I can do positive in the world. When I was in the military, you may think that's awesome. Let me tell this story. Darn you. For even mentioning this, Jonah. You're on my crap list. But anyway, when I was in the military, certain bands had just come and gotten popular and whatnot. Spice Girls just hit it big. And as a joke for saying that he had the time of his life, our butter bar of a lieutenant bought the Spice Girls CD for every single one of us while we were overseas. And the reason why it was so funny was because anytime we turned on a television to watch something locally, it was always the video for that one song. Always. If we changed channels, it was to the video of that one song. So he thought it'd be nice enough to buy us that CD as a company to remind ourselves that we hated that song so much. So yeah, that's what my Discord is, because literally every fiber of my being loathes that song. Yeah. It is my antithesis. Don't do it. Don't do it. If I see it on my Discord, I'll pay for your pledge myself. You'll be no longer invited to join along. I will make a new character for my own game, just anything, not to have to live with that. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Quickly, while we still have a chance to move away from this subject, is there another question? I think we have time for 2 more questions, and then we can cut it short a little bit tonight and whatnot. And I think we've had a pretty good Q&A session tonight. So let's get 2 more questions that have nothing to do with my taste in music or others' taste in music or just music in general. We've talked about music enough. Okay, here we go. You haven't heard me talk about psychics. Well, it's because no one has asked me about psychics. Where do they fit into the world? Are they part of a particular organization? Are they generally allied with Aethyrs or against them? Okay. Yeah, literally the only reason they have not been mentioned yet is because we're not doing a psychic related video, and because nobody's asked of it yet during the open Q&As. They are not part of an organization. Literally. There are aspects to horror games where the terrible, horrible thing that goes bump in the night can't do everything on their own. And this is traditional mostly with vampires. They have entities that can go into the daylight for them and take care of things for them like that. If the Aethers were those things that went bumped in the night, psychics would be their answer to that problem. Psychics are created specifically by the recombinant DNA that resides within an individual and an Aether that has the power to activate that DNA. And yeah, I know my word use may sound a little bit ew right there, but that's essentially what it is. I hate to say it. So, and I'm not talking about anything other than the purposes of creating a psychic character. Okay. But generally, there are things that cannot be done by an Aether themselves. Like if an Aether is in hiding, you have to remember, Aethers can sense themselves or sense each other from a distance. They may not be able to see somebody, but they know behind this wall right here, there's another Aether. And if I roll high enough, I know exactly where they are behind that wall, etc. So psychics are given the position of having powers, not to the degree of Aethers, but still powerful enough to assist in Aethers. Aethers cannot do what psychics can do, and psychics cannot do what Aethers do. So they complement each other in all aspects of life. 9 times out of 10, they stay loyal to the Aether that has created them. Some of them have learned that you don't have to necessarily stick with the one that created you, because any Aether that has the ability to make, excuse me again. Last time, I promise. Okay. If an Aether has the ability to create a psychic, then they can assist, they can help that psychic as well. Because a psychic can only advance their powers through the energy given to them by an Aether. Okay? So, for instance, the Monotone can create psychics. But if something happens and the Monotone can't help a certain psychic anymore, again, I'm not mentioning names because this is important later on down the line, then that psychic can go to another Aether, any other Aether, and say, hey, can you help me? my guy's not around anymore for whatever reason, and I'd like to continue exploring my powers. It's a whole different side of the power struggle that is the Aethyr Blood Chronicles. So that's kind of about psychics. That's the very basics. Whereas powers tell you for an Aethyr the different things you can do. Everything from a psychic standpoint comes from one of their disciplines, one of their plateaus, as they are called. When you first step out on a plateau, anything that is on that plateau is within your realm of possibility. And what that means is there's a plateau for every type of psychic power. There are 12 of them. And so let's say you step onto the plateau of telepathy or teleempathy or whatever it's called. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I'm starting to get tired. I need dinner. So you step out onto that plateau that gives you these powers. Anything that you think fits within that power category, you can now try to do. Anything. So, okay, does that mean I can read somebody's mind? Yes. Does that mean I can read deep in their mind and find out like passwords and inner secrets? Yes. Does that mean I can shoot them with a bolt of mental energy and stun them? Yes. The list goes on and on and on for a psychic. If they can think of it and it fits within that domain, they can make it happen. And not a lot of people can resist psychic powers. It is hard to get that kind of, first of all, exposure to psychic powers because psychics are rare. And second of all, for them to be potent enough to stand up against a Aethyr. It has to be something that's cultivated. Even the resisting psychic powers. There's a whole, like I said, it's inherent to the whole power struggle that is the Aethyr Blood Chronicles. So very excellent question. It is something that I would like to do a deeper dive into for Knights of Lore. And maybe we can do that, after we take care of discussing Miracle. So yeah, that's psychics in a nutshell. Help, get me out of here. Whatever. Bad joke. Told too many times. So yeah, anything else? Anything at all? One more question. We've got about 4 minutes before I was wanting to call it quits. So sure, we can get in one more question. If you act now, you can get in the final question of the evening. Since I talked about psychics, can I talk about mutations? I can, but they are nothing alike. Okay? Mutations is when magic seeps through the boundary between the real world and other worlds. This magical effect invades our world. And when I say our world, I mean the world of the Aethyr Blood Chronicles. The actuality, I guess, if I want to get technical. When this magical energy comes through the actuality into the game setting, it infects things. It starts to twist things so that it can manipulate them and interact with them. Because magic and reality do not interact with each other very well. That's where magic comes from, is the interaction between arcane energy and the reality. It's literally it's scientific law as far as the magical realms look at it. The mutations are before that magic is actually shaped into scientific law. What can happen if a human being is exposed to too much raw magical energy, or an animal, or a building, or anything really. If you If you are around too much raw magical energy, you will become mutated. And I have an entire list of beautifully horrible mutations that not only scar you physically, but mentally. Like you may have claws, but suddenly you start thinking of yourself as an apex predator, yada, yada, yada. And they impose all sorts of bonuses and limitations upon you. You know, they're very unique. It's not like mutation. Okay. You can sense other mutants. No, it's not like mutation. Okay. I have a heightened sense of hearing. You could have a heightened sense of hearing, but at what cost? There's always something to pay back when it comes to a mutation. There's always another side to the coin. So yeah, that's what I can kind of say about mutations in 3 minutes or less. So yeah. Is that a good enough answer? You want me to talk about that a little bit more, or is that something else that we can talk about a little bit later down the line as far as a full Night of Lore video? Oh, it was lovely. I'm glad you found it so. Okay. All right. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it. It's 6:45 here. Thank you so much for coming out and paying a little bit of love to our corner of the internets. Thank you very much to all of our backers. Thank you very much to all 5 people who were sitting here and listening to us at the very end. I thank you all for coming by, spending your time with us. Really appreciate it all. So if you have not thought about backing us, at least to give a look over the backer kit, which I will throw links into this video before I post it up on backer kit itself. So many other things I wish I could say to you, but you know what? I'm just going to save those for another video for right now. Good night. I am Eric Drake, and happy gaming. We will see you next time right here.